Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. My name is Jordan with a silent PH in the middle, and I'm joined always by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucian. Over at Sir Lucian Gaming, how are you, sir?
Very good. How are you today?
I'm doing really well. So, my child went to visit grandparents this morning, which meant I decided to wake up early, and I got a whole video edited, and it's going to be uploaded, and I'm very excited for that. It's amazing the amount of things I can get done when I'm not chasing a toddler.
Yeah. Or up super early, too.
Yeah. And I was like, maybe I should start doing that more often, but we'll see. I don't like waking up in the morning. But
I don't know. I love sleep.
Me too.
It's a tough one. I was up at 6 a.m. too. I think I just woke up and my brain wouldn't go back, let me to sleep, but I wanted to sleep.
There you go. Yeah. Well, welcome everybody. Are you enjoying that post-Halloween sugar high, or you don't have a lot of sugar maybe because you don't have
kids took it all.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, they grabbed it all. It was like craziness. I did that haunted house at a friend's.
Oh, fun.
And it seemed like all the kids had decided that, COVID year wasn't great, so we're going to trick-or-treat a ton this year.
Nice.
And the weather was good, so no snow, no rain, or anything like that. So they were out in droves.
Cool. Yeah, I forget about those. I have a lot of relatives in North Dakota where all of your Halloween costumes revolve around snowsuits.
Yes.
So that you can actually go out and trick-or-treat most years.
Yeah.
Awesome.
2 years ago when I did it, it snowed while I was standing there, for sure.
This was the first Halloween in, I want to say 4 years that I haven't done, maybe 5 years, that I haven't done like a Halloween themed game. And I was kind of sad about that because I usually run Kids on Bikes or some kind of D&D game or DCC or something, but I didn't do any of that. I did try to get Curse of Strahd. Sly Flourish, Mike Shea has a guide on how to do Curse of Strahd in one night. And that's his Halloween tradition, is he runs it every year. And or Ravenloft in general, but like he's updated it for 5e. And I was all prepped to do that. And then it just fell apart and we couldn't do it because of, schedules and time, and everyone wanted to go to Halloween parties and stuff too. And I was like, okay, I get it. So they're like, we'll reschedule for like November, but now November's super filling up. And I was like, I don't think it's going to happen till December or January. And then it's like Christmas is right around the corner. So I was kind of sad because I was like, that's been such a fun thing, but I'll try to do a Christmas DCC one shot because that's been another tradition that I enjoy. So
I wonder too if it, sometimes I think a Monday holiday like that, like a Monday Halloween is always going to be different than if it's like a Friday or a Thursday or a Saturday Halloween where it falls kind of thing. Monday felt like a weird, kind of holiday to have, that night. We were talking to Danimal, our Australian dungeon master, and he was talking about, it's not big in Australia, but there is apparently a group of people that want it to be big. They want it to be a cool Halloween thing, just like we do. But he was telling us that it's like, if you don't have the people that grew up with it to then have the impetus to continue the tradition for the kids that are coming before them, it's hard to talk those people into doing it and saying, well, why would I do this? And so apparently what they did is they dressed up in costumes. They joined a Facebook group of some sort. And there was like a map, so you would drive your
of
kids
the houses
to
that are
the people that were participating.
Yeah, that's funny.
Wow, what a strange way to do that. I hope it catches on like wildfire, because I think Halloween's great for kids and parents or even people with not parents. I love it, and I don't have any kids, and I think it's a great holiday.
We just like dressing up. Like, it's an excuse to own costumes. So
be out at night, and then kind of late in the dark, and see all.
But that makes a good point. And actually, circling that back to D&D, I think the new CEO of the Dungeons and Dragons, or not CEO, but the head of the D&D department, she was saying that in surveys, they were surprised to find out that most of the people are playing with their kids, and it's the people our age that had D&D when they were younger, and now that they're older, they're like, oh, I want to like carry this on and play it with my kids. And I also would love to do that. And Ted and I were talking because he introduced Hero Quest which is the D&D-esque board game that came out in the 80s.
Gateway drug to D&D.
He's been playing that with his kids because it's easier to understand, and they're 5, and so it's like, oh, okay, they pick it up. And I was thinking the same thing about the Legend of Dritz, board game that I bought, kind of for the minis, but then at the end it's like, oh, it's actually kind of fun. We can explore and go through this D&D-esque kind of thing. So there's a big thing on that tradition-wise, like. Yeah. You grew up with
it. I tried to do my nephew, tried to drag him into it because I was like, I wanted to, but he wasn't into it. I don't think my niece was, so there was like, okay,
yeah,
maybe one, we'll
not for everyone. Sometimes kids are just kids.
I would love to be able to teach it to people, but it's also creepy if you're trying to go around as an adult saying, "Hey, do you have kids that want to learn?"
Oh yeah.
No. And you don't know.
So you got to start volunteering at after-school programs, but like, yeah, it's a
You're
little.
the weird guy. No,
gotta
just remember it.
A weird, just. Our current existence of everyone questions everybody else, which is
good.
I
was 10 and I loved it. Somebody introduced it to me. I want to be able to introduce it to somebody else, and not in a weird, crazy way.
Yeah. So, what else post Halloween is happening with you?
So then, that was it. November is that kind of wind down at my work area where we're getting a bunch of stuff done because once the holidays kick off, the school districts and stuff, they start winding down or going on breaks, or there's not as many people there and stuff. So that kind of impacts my job. So we're kind of getting to that piece, and it feels like this is the time where either campaigns kick off if you haven't been playing over the summer because you were super busy, or you're looking at computer games or stuff because now you're going to have those nights where you're really not doing as much as you were doing in the summertime. So yeah, I'm kind of like just looking at what gaming I can, and what I'm still buying Kickstarters left and right, and I did have a couple of things for later in the show to show off that I got after our show last week, which I thought was interesting. But
fun, yeah.
That was it. I mean, it's like It's also that season of new shows are starting. The fall show schedules are kind of coming around, and there's new stuff getting added in. But we changed our night for D&D, so that kind of changed our schedule a little bit. So it was like Halloween on Monday, and then D&D wasn't until Thursday this time, when it's normally on Tuesday. So my whole schedule is kind of a little weird. Yeah. So I don't know. What about your role-playing schedule?
It's been fairly consistent. So the Black Company game that DM Nathan runs, that has been every 2 weeks. And we skipped the 29th because of Halloween, I think. I think something came up. We were kind of scheduled to play, and then it was like, it's like Sunday. We're not, or the 30th, because Halloween was on Monday. So that got canceled, so I didn't get to play. But on the off weeks, I started getting my DCC game going. And so we're going to DCC tomorrow, which I'm really excited for. More Hot Springs Island. And it's funny, like I always get really excited, and then adventures take longer than I want sometimes. And I'm like, no, I want you guys to be done with this because I want to start playing Peril of the Purple Planet. Like I want to shift them over to the Purple Planet. And I'm like, oh, but that's going to take a while. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. Regardless, though, they're having a lot of fun, and it's all kind of it's all new players except like 2. And I shouldn't say new players to DCC because they're all new to DCC, but specifically to like role-playing games in general. And so a lot of them are just kind of, it's fun to see how they think. And specifically, I have a wizard who's just like, well, can I charm the tree? And I'm like, well, no, that's charm person. It has the word person in it for a specific reason. And she's like, oh, okay. And so it's just it's just fun to see the like min-maxers of my D&D group, and then my DCC group who's just like, I don't know, I want to do this, and I have to be creative and be like, can you do that? Why not? So it's been a lot of fun. And then we're doing our Great Modron March, which I want to talk about that a little bit later too, because a lot of crazy stuff happened in that game on Thursday. So
I like something you mentioned too, that I've had this problem in my campaigns, is that I do a lot of prep and I get super excited in the beginning is always fun and engaging and great, and then I get them to the middle part but then they take too long, like you said, to get through that part. Because I thought it was going to go quicker, or I didn't think it was as big a deal, but now it's taking a lot more sessions. I'm like, no, we just want to get past this because this other thing I've set up is going to be super cool. But now it's like, so I'm like really bad at the middle or ending of the thread or storyline I was doing, but I'm really good at the start of it. So it makes for this awkward kind of like spot in every campaign I still run, which is a problem just I have not overcome either. It's just I get really cool ideas and fun ideas, and they're all great in the beginning, and you get 3 or 4 really good sessions out of them. But I'm finding like they're not ideas that are good for 50 sessions or 20 sessions. You know, they're great for 2 or 3 sessions, and if they go past that, it doesn't feel as good as
not as epic.
Yeah,
so. Yeah, and then I've been writing. I actually took a physical notebook and put it by my bed because I found that while I was trying to fall asleep or while I was slowly waking up, I would start thinking about game mechanics. And then I'd be like, oh, it'd be a cool thing. And I'm like, yeah, I should write that down. And then I wouldn't. And I'd be like, what was I thinking about? And so I started like writing down ideas. And so that note's been fun. And if you're on our Discord, in I think the Endigar or the modular D6 room, I've been posting certain things about D6 systems because I still find them fascinating, even though they don't work as how I want them to. But in a way, I'm like, I will make it work. It might never happen, but it's fun.
I saw some chart you had posted, a picture of D6s.
So, just kind of working on stuff and playing with things and graphics and stuff. I'm really good at graphics because I'll get an idea and I'm like, oh, and then I think it's the building the thumbnail in me of the YouTube stuff, because I'll get an idea and then I'll like, even for videos, and I'll make like, oh, it's going to be called this and it's going to have this, and I'm kind of a visual person, and then that's done. But I haven't done any writing for a script. I haven't designed any game mechanics. And so you're like, well, when the rest of that gets finished, this is going to be really cool on the cover. It's like,
what's interesting too is that all the games you play or run are not D6 games. So you're thinking of all these D6 mechanics, but you're not playing any or experiencing any in live play anywhere.
Nope.
So why is the D6 your big focus, do you think?
I don't know. I think it's just because it's different. Like, I actually what part of my notes I was writing the other day was like, should I abandon this D6 idea and do D10 instead? But I think it's the idea that I want to be able to play a game and tell a story and have like the system I want, but not have it be a complete mirror of Dungeons and Dragons, or just like the OSR in general, which is very like...
So it has to be non-D20.
And so in my mind, it doesn't have to be, but in my mind gravitated there to say like, oh, well, you should use a D6 system. And so then I started looking at all these D6 systems, and that's kind of where it came from, is like, oh my gosh, there's actually a lot. Like, there's a lot of people that have tried to make this work, so...
Well, and there's a ton of indie designers that jumped on the 2d6 plus stat, which is kind of I think they did the math and they figured out, where the ranges were, and it wasn't as swingy, so you could plan for it better, and it had all these advantages that, mathematically it was just better.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that, and they're fun to read, and there's lots of different D6 ones out there. What about the 2d20? Like if you play Numenera, you're playing... Star Trek Adventures is a 2d20. The Modifius games, they're that 2d20
I've
style.
never played a 2d20.
Does that feel like D&D to you because it's a 20-sided dice, or does it not feel like D&D to you?
No, I think it doesn't, because you're not utilizing... because I think it's low, right? Like the crit is a 1. And you're rolling 2 of them.
Or more.
But I also have never played a system like that. Like I've read through... Like I've actually played some of the D6 systems. I just don't regularly play them.
We should play a little scenario. I've got that Star Trek Adventure scenario that's super fun. And it's meant to learn the rules.
Yeah,
so they built
I would love to
learn the rules. Awesome. We should go through that and then ask you like what you think of the dice mechanics and stuff as we go through it. That'd be fun. I did it with that other group, and I did at the end. That's kind of what I did. I did like okay, now what'd you guys think of that system? And they all loved it. It was like PB and Graybeard and all the regular crew that we play with quite often, and they had loved it. I I wanted to run more Star Trek. This is like total tangent. I wanted to run more Star Trek, but I felt like I need to be more of a Star Trek geek to keep running it, because I kept feeling like I don't think I know enough. I love it, but I don't know if I know it enough to run it all the time. You know, to be the super geek on it.
I think that's the problem with the Forgotten Realms, honestly. A lot of people are like it would be easier if the Realms had a TV show that people could like reference and be like, oh, I understand how this is supposed to be. But I don't know. I concur. And I think if I was running a Star Trek game, I love Star Trek. I know a lot about Star Trek, but I would also probably be like, you're in some weird, like, you know, Franklin quadrant, and we're going to have whatever adventures I want to create there, kind of a thing. So.
Yeah, like not in the normal. This is what did they have? The alpha, beta, and like the delta quadrant one of the shows went to. Yeah. So we're in echo quadrant.
Yeah.
What if there's only quad means forward? No. This is echo.
so I don't know. Or like jump Lord a timeline or something. But
like if you tried to learn,
we've talked about Lord of the Rings too. Yeah, and also it's weird because we talked about this before, but like Lord of the Rings is that feels like a finished story to me, whereas Star Trek doesn't. And I would be more inclined to run a Star Trek game because just feels like, well, that story keeps going, you know. But like Lord of the Rings, I'm like, but everything's done. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm super interested in running you through that starter scenario. The way it starts is you've just completed, and now my brain just went frozen. But
Star Trek
Cadet,
Academy,
you're just at the academy. You've just been assigned to your first posting, which is at a starbase, and you're in a shuttlecraft that is heading there. And you have like you and a couple of the other graduates. There's a name for the graduates that I'd have. It's in the thing. I'd have to see that. I'd have to bone up on it again. Yeah. And be like, oh, but it's really, and that's where it starts. And it's a really cool, typical, feels like an episode you'd watch on any of the Star Trek shows. And you're like, God, this feels really cool and things. But it does have some cool mechanic stuff going on in it too. So I wonder if you like that too.
I think, BK Dan.
Yeah, I think they were ensigns. I think, or is there another name? Like, what was Crusher or Wesley? Like,
Cadet.
Wesley was he just a cadet, but he hadn't made it to another level yet?
I think he became a ensign. I don't know.
Could be.
Anyway, Star Trek show about Dungeons and Dragons Star Trek. No. But yeah, no, I think I just really love dice mechanics because there's so many out there, and it's interesting how one can give you a completely different feeling from another. And I think a quick way of pointing that out is like a D20 is very much a success or fail. But the Powered by the Apocalypse 2d6, you have all of these different levels of success, which is kind of interesting.
At Gen Con, we played a D6 system, right?
We tried to play easy D6, and we didn't do it. Or are you thinking of mazes?
No. That was the one you were going to play, but then we sat at a table and played...
Mazes.
Was that a D6 system? I'm trying to remember
No, that utilized D4 to D10, or D12. But depending on our characters were D6 characters, so we only used the D6,
That's what it was.
That was a fun system. Okay. It's an interesting system,
we should pick a D6 system so that you can try it and play it.
Well, we could play Open D6 is the free open one that's got like a whole bunch of supplements, and then Easy D6,
just like we did with the Invisible Sun Knight.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Oh, I missed that game.
Just a quick little scenario.
Such a fun game. What's going on in the world of Dragonlance? That's coming out soon.
Well, it's about to release. Gonna release not too long out. Lots more videos, so they're definitely supporting it on the video channel. They've got Kenrick back over there doing those videos, and the one that I thought was interesting is at least a cool title: Death Knights and Death Dragons. Sounds really super cool. Lord Soth, apparently quite a popular character. The cover art looked really good. I didn't know much about Lord Soth, but apparently he's been in adventures. There was a video game that kind of ran a storyline with him. And apparently he is basically kind of like a fallen paladin kind of storyline.
Yeah, he was the original kind of fallen paladin, I guess. Yeah,
falls out of line with
Dark
what he was
Knight
supposed to be
or
doing.
Black Knight. He was the original Batman, if you remember that. Yeah. So. No.
Yeah. And
I don't know much about him.
He can stop the apocalypse, but he doesn't, so that's why he's been cursed to live forever. If you know anything about the apocalypse, which I don't know a ton about, but apparently the story, not to spoil too much or too much about it, is that with the Dragon Queen coming back, she's looking for those who might have a grudge against the old gods, or Solamnia, I think is how that's pronounced. And Lord Soth could be one of those people. So I'm like, okay, I could see where this could go. You know, like a revenge kind of person. You know, like, they took my powers away and made me into this. Now I'm ready to get them, you know, burn the world because of it. Yeah. So that's kind of what it sounds like. And then the other one, the video I saw, kind of tying into what we talked about last week, because you brought up the lunar sorcery stuff, but the mages of high sorcery, and that the idea, they talked a little bit about the idea that this world's magic is weird to make work, because you could have characters that are starting at first level as a wizard, and the magic in this world is kind of alignment based, or at least the societies are very alignment based. So the white, like you're saying, white robe mages and are the good, the white robes, and the red are the neutral, and the black robes are the. They said evil in that one, so I know you were using chaos and order in that, but they actually said good, neutral, and evil, because it also did align with the alignment stuff, and that was the thing that's kind of gone away. We've kind of always known it. But it is the interesting piece that we lost, I think, in D&D 5e, is alignment. That's the thing that just, it was there, but nobody uses it for, like it was, I thought it was used quite a bit more during first, second, and third editions. I don't know about fourth. Mostly gone in fifth, really. I don't think anybody uses alignments for stuff.
I think, good and evil, they use it for monsters, right? So you always very much know, that's a chaotic monster, or that's this. Mm-hmm. But as far as players, because alignment used to be tied to, if you were lawful, you could be a paladin if you were lawful. You couldn't be a paladin if you weren't lawful. But honestly, I players don't like that, and I look at it and I'm like, I don't really like that either, because if I want to be a dark paladin, like, why can't I do that? Or I want to do this, what's stopping me? And who knows?
Alignment is stopping you.
Well, alignment is stopping you, and I don't know if alignment is stopping Dragonlance, because that doesn't seem like a 5e thing to do as well. Where if I want to be part of the white robes, I'm probably just getting magic spells that the black robes don't get, but I could still be, a chaotic evil white robe person. They're not going to make that restriction. And then there were a lot of items that were tied to alignment. Like you could only hold this if you were, chaotic or neutral or something. Mm-hmm. So
it was, I remember during character creation of those being a big deal. Like it mattered in ways that were going to guide how you played your character. And I think that's just a piece they pulled out to say, motivation or morality is not part of that anymore. It's just not in the game anymore. You do your characters whatever they are based on whatever you're going to role play, but it's not part of the mechanical part. So it is interesting that it's gone. But this is a world or a campaign setting that had a big piece of it. So it's like, it's weird to bring that. It's almost like saying, I don't even know what the analogy was, but if you're doing like Ravenloft and you didn't have vampires, that seems to be a big core part of that world. And if you just say, well, vampires aren't, we're just doing all the other stuff, but not the vampire part.
Yeah.
That seems
weird. I don't know. So
I could be wrong.
Mr. Midwell did point out that Lord Soth is also in Ravenloft. He was popular enough that he crossed over, and
he ends up getting sent or something.
I know that there's a Ravenloft book. It's like the something of the Black Rose is one of the novels, and he's the main.
And there's lots of novels on this guy.
Yeah,
apparently. So authors liked writing about Lord Soth, is what it sounded like.
Well, he was a popular character. So
yeah.
And then Steve, he just thank you for the $10 donation, Steve. He says we really need to do these one-shot ideas that we keep talking about, and
I know,
and include members and patrons. So
I actually would do that, and we have done that. I have done some of this with my Seeking Revenor. I have gotten people from this show's audience, and they got to play in Seeking Revenor. Yes, it was a couple years back now, and I haven't done it since. But I have planned to revive the idea of asking you audience if you guys wanted to play a game, especially when I can't get my friends to play some of the games that I like to play. But I know there might be some of you out in the audience that would want to play.
Heck yeah.
My my caveat always is I'm a stickler for a pretty good microphone, but camera I don't care about. But I gotta have a good microphone. Like a bad microphone in a virtual game, I don't know, grates on me for some reason.
No, I definitely played with some people who use their laptop mic in the laptop,
oh my God,
and it's difficult to listen to.
I can't do it.
Especially for like, I mean, for a quick call, that's fine. But when you're doing like a consistent 2 to 3 hour game, it's like, call me on your phone. How about that?
Yeah.
But yeah, Lord Soth, Mages of High Sorcery. This again comes out on December 6th. And if you pre-order it only through wizards.com, dnd.wizards.com, you can spend an extra $10 because normally it's $50. And I was talking about this with some other people where they're like, yeah, you always say like, well, the MSRP is $50 for these books, but then you get them for like $32 on Amazon or something else. I was like, I know. So it feels a little weird because they're asking $60 to get the physical book.
And buy it.
Yeah. Well, and they're asking here $60 for the physical book and $10 and that extra $10 is for the D&D Beyond. But what's interesting about this is if you pre-order it on D&D Beyond, you don't get early access. But if you buy this physical book with the D&D Beyond, you get 2-week early access. So November 22nd, we're going to start having people showcasing the new adventure and the new book via D&D Beyond. And I wonder what that's going to do for sales. Because I was thinking if they had done this for Spelljammer and I was able to see people 2 weeks early talk about Spelljammer, which I guess they kind of do by sending out the physical books a little early. But this I feel it's not sending to specific reviewers. You're getting anybody who wants to pre-order this and make a video on it is going to be able to do so. And I'm going to have a very clear idea of whether this is going to be awesome or not because Spelljammer did not live up to my expectations and I was quite sad. So I'm curious about this, what it'll do for sales. If it's going to be like, oh, wow. And then will this increase D&D Beyond sales or will this increase physical book sales? So what are your thoughts?
Well, and it's hard to judge because it's Dragonlance. So how big is the Dragonlance?
And how big is the Dragonlance community? You're right.
For somebody to even pick that up. Because right now, it sounds interesting to me. The cover art looks pretty good to me, but I don't feel like it's one that's on my list of I need to run out and grab because I just don't think I'll play that setting. I think I'd play in it, but I don't think I would ever run it. So I don't know if it'll be one I pick up.
Yeah. I think I'd have to read some Dragonlance novels to really...
But I did buy Radiant Citadel, and I loved reading through it, and it was good.
No, Radiant Citadel was a lot of fun. I should run some of those as well because they're so good. They're super fun. So no, it's hit or miss, and I'm thinking more and more as I listen to Sly Flourish and stuff on his. I think he has a Sunday morning podcast that he releases on YouTube on Mondays that I always listen to. But he's like, we need to treat Wizards like every other third-party developer because some of the third-party stuff is just better than what's coming out, you know. And I think there even was like a space dwarven campaign that came to Kickstarter that got a lot of press, and I haven't heard about it since. But then you're just like, well, why don't I go take that, you know, or do something else? So
yeah,
or fix
and there's
it,
lots
which is
of
kind of what I'm doing.
Stuff. There is no shortage of 5e Kickstarter.
Oh, not at all
relevant stuff, and it can be everything from sci-fi, modern, you know, regular day, you know, it could be fantasy, it could be any movie franchise you can think of. It seems like everybody was doing a 5e. I mean, Monty Cook was putting their stuff in 5e, Paizo's putting their stuff in 5e rules, Cobalt Press is doing all their stuff in 5e. I think there's a Lord of the Rings 5e version, you know, so you could pretty much do anything you want in 5e. You don't have to make, you know, Spelljammer do it.
Your tabletop RPG just does better if you put the number 5 and the letter E at the end.
Well, I did see Sly. He's been slowly in several of his tweets putting 6e. So I wonder if he's trying to push the next version 6e because he's not been putting 5.5e.
We got to call it 5.5, not 5.5. We got to call it 5 1/2.
Yeah, we need a survey in the comments of the video, guys. What are you voting for 5.5 or are you voting for 6e for this next version? Let us know in the comments.
And yes, BK Dan, I did see you. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it.
Oh, your name's Dan. You must be good. BK
Yeah,
Dan.
there you go. This was weird to me, but we have Dice Transformer toys. And this is a movie tie-in for Honor Among Thieves, which is the movie coming out in March. Did you see these?
I did not, so I'm waiting for you to describe them to me.
Okay, so they are, it's a D20 that is a transformer, basically. And they transform out of the D20 into, there's a black dragon, there's a owlbear, there's a red dragon, and there's a beholder. And they're hilarious because, to me, looking at this, it feels like those early Transformers that were in McDonald's Happy Meals, where it was like the burger would turn into a robot and then back to like a little burger. And I don't know how big they are. I was trying to figure out like size wise, because I'm like, I don't know if it's an actual die or if it's a little bigger, or if they're like this big.
It's gotta be big, yeah.
But I just don't know. One of them said like choking parts for like children under 3. So that made me think that they were smaller, like you could choke on them. But I don't know. But they look pretty articulate and kind of cool. And so the black dragon is the black dragon we see in the trailer of... Oh, and I'll put a link here. I've got a Bell of Lost Souls.
The dragon one looks pretty cool.
Actually. No, they do.
Now that I see it, now that I'm looking at it. Because it's really the outsides of the dice is the wings, which must cover...
the whole
the
like body that
somehow.
comes back in, yeah.
That one's cool. I did see the owl one in somebody else's post somewhere, and I had no idea what it was referencing until now.
Yeah.
I saw this on Twitter.
This is a movie tie-in, probably the beginning of a lot of toys, because Hasbro's a toy company, so I'm sure they're going to be like, oh, we got a movie coming out, let's make a bunch of toys. Yeah. Which it's like, whatever, that's cool. This just felt weird, because I'm like, I don't know. But so the Black Dragon is the one from the trailer that's spewing acid. The white owlbear is most likely the tiefling druid who turns into an owlbear, is what everyone is kind of assuming. Okay. And then the red dragon has been called out as Themberchad, which is the overweight large red dragon that is in the Underdark, that keeps the fire smelters. He's also in the trailer. So they're kind of cool. Like, you can pre-order them now. I don't know if I'll get them. Because I don't know, like I like to collect things, but at the same time, this feels like I wouldn't put it on my shelf to be like, that's cool, I have that, I'm enjoying it. It feels like I would be like, cool, I bought this. Now let me like put it away under the house somewhere, and I'll never look at it.
Let me roll it.
That was my other question. If you roll this, is it going to break open like a Bakugan, or is it going to actually be a rollable die? So.
Next time I'm in my store, my comic book store, I'm going to look for it. Now that I know what I'm looking for, I'm going to go look for it, see if it's out.
The Beholder looks like it has the least amount of work on it, because it's like the face opens up and there's a Beholder there, and it's like, okay. But the dragons and the owlbear, like, it's pretty cool interlocking parts. So, I don't know. Dicelings, they're calling them, apparently. They're called Dicelings. And I bet this is going to be a huge... If this is popular, they're going to make this for everything, you know? So. More than meets the die.
Interesting idea. So. Yeah, that's right.
Dice formers. Anyway.
Don't start.
They're interesting.
Don't start.
We'll see. Other than that, the D&D movie date has changed. I don't remember what it was previously. I think it was the 10th. But Paramount, who is also releasing Scream 6, that I didn't know they were making.
I didn't know there was 5.
Well, yeah. My wife's a big Scream fan, so we had to go see 5 in the theaters. And it was good. I actually enjoyed it. I'm not like a huge horror movie fan, but I think they're doing interesting things with that franchise. So Scream 6 and the D&D Honor Among Thieves have changed spots. So now the D&D movie is going to be March 31st, and Scream 6 is going to be like March 10th or 12th. I don't remember. but it'll be the end of the month. And that's just movie studio stuff. They do a lot of like, let's bounce back and forth with this and what have you. So we'll see how that works out. I'm excited though. Like when we went and saw Black Adam, the trailer was in the theater, and some of my friends who know I like D&D but don't actually like D&D with me were just like, "Oh, was that cool? Was it accurate? Are you excited?" I'm like, "I'm very excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun." So that's very, very cool. But yeah, I guess we probably have to wait until January to get a new trailer. Maybe Christmas. Maybe the Christmas movies will get like an updated second trailer. It'd be really cool. We'll
I keep trying to stay away from trailers because for me, typically, I love a movie more when I don't watch a trailer.
Yeah.
So I've been trying just in general, I've been trying to stay away from them. So, but March isn't that far off, really.
No.
I mean, that means it's filmed and it's in the can, and they're just waiting to release it at this point. They're not filming.
Well, they're
anymore.
doing special effects work, but yeah, they stopped filming a while ago, so.
Yeah. So it's either it is what it is now. So it'll be interesting to see.
And then a last bit of news, which I thought was fun, and I made a video about this on the J3 channel, the Jordan's Jocular Junction. Old School Essentials released a Necromancer playtest, and they have released lots of other classes and races, and they're usually like no big deal. Like here's how to play like a mushroom folk, and they've done it in zines and stuff like that. But then this one was really
5e.
No, this is for Old School Essentials.
For old school. This is a class or something for old. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. But what I wanted to point out why it was so cool is because they've released a lot of these. Like you can be a mushroom guy in Old School Essentials, or here's like 5 different kinds of elves. And it's usually like you're an elf, but you can teleport, or you're an elf, but you can like charm people or something. And so it's kind of like, okay, you're not changing anything. But the Necromancer specifically came with 72 new spells that are all evil, like creepy, control undead kind of stuff. And they're really cool. So this was not only a way of you could be a Necromancer. It's like the Necromancer can only use these dark spells. Or you could just add these spells into your regular class. And so once I started reading it, I'm just like, oh, there's a reason they're playtesting it, because they want to make sure the spells are better. And it's but it's just really cool. So like, I want to play a Necromancer now. It's really cool.
I absolutely do. I think it's one of those that most games, especially D&D, shy away from, because it starts out as a great idea right up until you want them to summon the skeleton army, and then the dungeon master has to try to, figure out the combat of, 50 skeletons that, are fighting these other, and it just drags it out. But the concept and the story and the vision of what's going on is so D&D. It's like, to me, it's like, standing on top of a big mobile home playing an electric guitar, and the lightning is crashing around.
They always make a better villain, because when I think of those things, it's like my party is standing in front of 80 skeletons, and there's a Necromancer in the back that's just like, come and get me,
Or it's always that good storyline, let evil fight evil. Like, what's the best way to fight evil?
True.
More evil. It's like they were going out, because I've always wanted to play that, but that's the problem with the pet class, is that you don't want to get it too crazy. But I do want to get that crazy. But I think.
But you're right. I've never played I haven't played a 5e Necromancer, and I've played Necromancers in video games, but this one looked really cool because you have a lot of spells that allow you to control undead or summon undead or things like that, and then in order to make it unique, the Necromancer can't use charm and illusion magic. So if you tried, you can charm and control an undead, but you can't do it with like a living creature. And I thought that was really cool, because in your mind you're like, well, no, you're right. They're very focused on this, And then it said you could always bend the rules, and like anybody could learn any spell, kind of a thing. But the fun of it is that. And they had a really cool spell like bone armor, where you like. Every time somebody hits you, shards of bone splinter off and attack them back, so they take damage. Kind of like the, I think it's frost armor in 5e that the warlock gets.
Bone spikes, bone spike armor,
Anyway, It's completely free. You can go to DriveThruRPG and pick it up. Or if you're curious, go to the J3 channel, and I have a video where I talk about it because it was cool enough that I'm like, all right, I actually want to make a video about this. So
yeah, it's cool that they're doing that too, because in the lit RPG kind of community of books that are based on people that play games and then either get sucked into that world or the world has game mechanics attached to it somehow. Necromancer is such a big one that always gets in a lot of these stories. Like I'm reading a bunch of them, and Necromancer is the thing that, like, these people that happen to, like, I'm gonna pick this class because this happens. And then the thing that always comes up is when you're fighting your enemy, the Necromancer might not be too strong in the beginning, but the cool part is that as the fight goes longer, they're getting more powerful because they're taking what they're killing from you and rising it up to use against you. And that's just that concept of that grind and, you know, using that stuff. And it's such a cool and fun storyline to think about and use and do, you know, sending zombies and skeletons and ghouls after people and, you know, having vampires or whatever else at your fingertips. It just sounds fun.
Yeah. And I mean, I always think of that last battle in Game of Thrones where everybody was fighting, and then it's like, okay, we think we're winning, and then the guy turns and he just raises his arms, and all of a sudden, you know, half their army stands up again, and it's like, oh, that's spooky. That's fun.
Yeah, you know? We can't win that. Very cool.
Diving into games that I've been playing or running and things like that, I wanted to talk briefly about the Great Modron March with Ted and LB and Rachel and Lex. We had a really weird game that I didn't really know how to do, but it's kind of like when your players just run into danger, obviously, and they're not trying to be stealthy or anything about it. I kind of feel like I need to punish them, but it really did backfire. So Ted's character Lagwin is an elf and only needs to trance for 4 hours. So they took a long rest. He woke up after 4 hours. I said, this is what you see. The Modrons are being snatched up by this evil cult. And he's like, well, okay, I'll like wake up my friends. But then Rachel and Shifter and Nyx were just like, no, we want to sleep. We want our full rest. I want my spells back. So they like rolled back over. And he's like, well, I guess I'll go check it out. So he teleports down Dimension's door and then just walks up. And I'm like, are you trying to be sneaky? He's like, no, I just walk up and say like, what's going on? And I'm like, okay. And this is a hard encounter that I made in D&D Beyond for 4 players, level 12. Like that's the math of it. And I want to point out, this has 6 hobgoblins, 2 hounds, Yeth hounds. They're like fey hound creatures. A hobgoblin warlord and a hobgoblin devastator. The devastator is a magic user, and the warlord is like controls all the units. I didn't have all of them attack at the same time because I was kind of like, well, I want to be nice to him. But as he started doing damage, the other ones were like, oh, what's going on? And they're running in to, like, help. He soloed it. Like, the Blade Singer is broken. I was like, this is way too powerful. And granted, he's got a lot of magic items and stuff, but, like, he soloed a hard encounter for 4 level 12 players as 1 level 12 Blade Singer. And it got to the point where his AC got so high because of Blade Song and stuff, I couldn't hit him because of shield. I was trying to do saving throws. He got lucky with the saving throws. He did save every single one. But yeah, and so then I was doing like lightning bolts and stuff to try and do some damage even if he succeeded on the saving throw. And he demolished everything. Like it, and I did not pull punches. Like you could watch it, and I'm like, I'm rolling right in chat, like you could see everything, and it was like, holy cow. So
Spellsinger's strong.
It's very strong, like super strong.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, in my defense, because we were talking about it later, he's like, I burned through like 90% of my spells. Like he's like, I am spent right now, and it is the beginning of a morning as we walk into the rest of a fight. And I was like, well, you're right, but still, like, and he was on cloud 9. Like he just thought this was the coolest thing in the world. But I was like, yep, it blew my mind. I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
This is crazy. That
it's a
Blade
type
Song
of fight.
haste. I don't even think he used haste. Actually, I think he just put up Blade Song and did a bunch of like really damaging spells. But yeah.
The shield is what does it. That being able to reaction shield kept them alive. I had one in my Storm King's Thunder campaign, and it really skewed. And it made me then, because we had that spell singer, make things much harder. But here's what happened. It's a razor's edge, because there's a point where he misses one roll and it goes devastatingly bad super quick when he misses one saving throw or something, but normally that was the same in Arc. The AC is so high and the shield is there to keep him alive, and they're doing all kinds of crazy damage, and they're super mobile, and there's all kinds of things going on. And then once it turned so bad that it was done. And but you can't plan as a dungeon master with something that's so on the edge. Like, you want something that builds up, is tough, but you can kind of see that they can push through. They're going to get there barely, but they'll get there. You can kind of map it out and see where it's going to happen. But when it's like one good crit or one good whatever happens, and then you're knocked down.
What? And you're just
no.
I don't know. It was it was really interesting to see. And you're right. It was kind of swingy, because like if I had landed like another 2 hits, it would have been a very different outcome, because he did take a lot of hits and stuff. But I was amazed, because I was thinking about this. I'm like, LB would not have been able to survive this. Like,
not every class.
Not every class would be able to do something like this, and not every class should. No. But I really look at that and I'm like, well, and they don't have a healer, so they got back, and he's just like, well, I guess I'll short wind and maybe drink a potion. I was like, okay, have fun. So I don't know. It was interesting.
It's the one class that I remember early on as being overpowered, and I don't even think it's a normal class. You must have had to have let it happen through, what was it?
It was the Sword Coast Adventures guide that it was in originally.
Yeah, it's super obscure.
It's now in
most
Tasha's.
Dungeon Masters don't let them do it. Yeah,
it's now in Tasha's, and they did change it as a buff, I think. Like, there's some of the changes in Tasha's are just like, okay, that's a little more powerful. But it was restricted to elves only. It was kind of one of those weird ones. And now it's just open to anyone. But I said, like, hey, you can be anything from, like, this book, but I want to keep it as a Forgotten Realms adventure. So when they made these characters, he's like, well, can I do that? I'm like, it's in the Sword Coast. You can, And
it definitely is a min-maxer's dream class,
and I love
it's made for min-maxing.
I love mages with swords. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I like the idea of running in with a sword and doing stuff, but boy, it was eye-opening to see, because he's always been like pretty powerful, but now I'm just like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's why I always think everybody thinks Gandalf's a wizard, but really he's a spell singer, because he has a sword and a staff, and he's he's swinging swords, and he's slinging spells, and he fought a Balrog in one. So,
and he whistles.
That's your
he's
spell
like,
singer.
what? Horses come running in.
That's right. He's a spell singer. He's not a wizard.
I was this is a tangent, but I was reading about Lord of the Rings, and specifically, like, what is the magic of Lord of the Rings? And how we talk about that scene of, he says, you shall not pass, and that there is an underlying magic that's kind of from Judaism and Christianity and stuff, where it's like, my words become reality. And so when Gandalf says, you shall not pass, he's actually casting a spell where it's like, I've changed the fundamental laws of reality, in that you are now incapable of passing this area. But if he actually tries, like, the magic kind of folds in on himself. And that's why in that movie scene, he's like, I have to let go. Like, it's not that he gets pulled down. It's not like he's struggling. He's like, if I don't, then I've undone this spell that actually protects you. And so he falls down to fight. And another really good example is in the extended edition, when he's Sauron the White, he's, or not Sauron, Gandalf the White, he's looking up at Saruman, and he's like, Saruman, your staff is broken. And then Saruman's staff just like shatters in his hands. And that's the same thing. He's like fundamentally, and I was like, how could you incorporate that in a game? You know, like that would be really interesting. It's not spell slots. It's not stuff like this, but like maybe that's the DM
force of
like
will.
Character where you're just like, you know, as your players walk in, your villain says stuff like the ground under your feet is fragile, and then they fall in or something. Like I thought that was really cool. So I like
it is an interesting magic.
I just finished
it's not Vancian.
No, it's not Vancian at all. And I just finished watching The Rings of Power when I was like researching this and stuff, and I was like, this is so cool.
yeah, I like The Rings of Power. I don't know what any of the critics were talking about. I love that whole show.
It was fun.
I was enjoying the whole thing.
But I've talked so much. I also have a bunch of Kickstarters coming up, but I don't need to talk about those just now. So, what did you do? How's Dungeon of the Mad Mage? What's happening?
Dungeon of the Mad Mage is on a Thursday night now, so it's pretty good. We had a really cool
competing with that Critical Role on Thursdays, huh? That's
right. They better watch out.
Yeah, we're coming for it.
We're coming. We have an Australian Dungeon Master. They don't have that. We had a really cool knockdown drag out fight, which was super fun. The one comment I had at the end of it, because everybody was really happy with it and it was fun, and it felt like a very similar big battle fight that we had in Seeking Revenor, where the team had found during scouting a black pyramid that had appeared somewhere, and then they wanted to go up to it. They went into it, and like in the entryway of the pyramid, there's like, you know, like these 20 hobgoblins of different types, archers and spellcasters and this, and they try to push their way in the first time at like 4th level, and they've got to retreat. They go all the way back, they get some more levels, they do some more quests, and they're like, we're going back to the black pyramid, so we do it again. And so it was interesting to run big battles with tokens and maps and vision stuff when there's 20 or 30 enemies with lots of different abilities, and there was 5 in the party. There's lots of stuff going on. There's lots of things firing off. There's lots of cool ups and downs in that battle. And that was what this was. So everybody loved it. And I was like, my big comment, the whole takeaway from it is finally I got to play it, not just run it as the DM. Because from the DM side of it, you're trying to, like you said, you got to kind of be careful a little bit, because you could focus fire like the players do with your enemies. And I think if you tried to kill players, you probably could, right? But as a dungeon master, you're typically going, okay, what's the motivation of my NPCs? What they normally do? What would they do in this situation? You're not like, how do I kill Johnny? Yeah. If I take Johnny out and their cleric goes down, this party's wiped. Yeah. You know? But there are people that I think would play that way, and I wonder
adversarially.
Matt Colville talked about that. They knew that when they were going into their early games back when he played when he was younger, and that's how their dungeon master was. Their dungeon master killed them, right? I wonder if you could play a game now telling everybody, hey, when we do battles, I'm going to try to knock you out. If I knock you down to 0, I'm going to walk over and I'm going to stick my sword into you to make sure you get 2 crit fails and you have 2 death saving throw fails immediately. And if you don't get up in that next round, I'm going to shove my sword in you again, and you're going to be 3rd death fail and you're out. Like, if you tell them, I'm coming at you like full bore cutthroat, just like you go after the player or the NPCs, you know, like the players don't hold back on anything they do. I wonder what it would be like if the dungeon master was truly the adversarial, not just the judge, or I'm here running the game and I'm
the referee,
kind of the arbiter of physics. I'm here to try to kill you with the things that I have. Dice out in the open.
Yeah.
I think that would be a key. Dice out in the open, but I wonder how that would go. I mean, what do you think would happen, or do you think you could play it or do it, or like in that moment you were just talking about, if you tried to kill him, could you have killed Ted?
With the monsters I have, I don't know. You know, I because of his AC gets so
like
high.
4 to grapple him, so he can't move, and then like, you know, just start laying in stuff. And...
Well, I even had because he kept casting shield, I was trying to have my warlord do shield bash to knock him prone,
knock him down. Yeah.
But he kept getting the saving throws, and then I couldn't hit him with shield bash, and it was like this is interesting, you know. It's kind of interesting. But you're right. If I wonder, I don't know. dice. If the dice went a different way, I probably could have killed him very easily. But I will say it was close. You know, it was like one of those things, but it just surprised me so much. Like
this one had so many characters in ours that our dungeon master shot our dwarf, who's kind of our frontline cleric dwarf, who always runs forward. Every attack went after him, and he knocked him down. He put him down, but we're talking like he went through 100 hit points in a turn because every single archer turned and shot at him. So it was like 20 rolls of this, and 10 rolls of this guy, and then 2 rolls of the fire giant doing something, and it was like everything went onto our dwarf. He had 100 and something hit points at the start of that round, and he was down on the ground at the end of the round. But our party's strong enough that it's one quick heal or one quick thing. The rest of us just come in and just start doing the thing. So it's interesting playing Dungeons and Dragons at these levels, these 12th, 13th level now, combined levels for us. And it's going to be interesting as we go deeper and deeper and things seem to get harder and harder, how these battles will happen. We're starting to see lots of counter magic. We're seeing lots of anti-magic fields now. We're starting to see like magic weapons shut off, or spells didn't fire off because we went into a room that had a magic anti-magic field in it or stuff. So they're really starting to mess with us on those kinds of things to take away some of those advantages that you've gotten. So, but it's still fun. I think we're excited. We're probably maybe finish this year out, and then by the end of this year, maybe looking into next year, we might be on to the next campaign or a new campaign, which is always exciting too. So yeah. I'm excited to see where it goes, and I'm still having fun. And I'm a dungeon delver. I know not everybody would love to have done this for so long. They like, all right, we've done the dungeon thing. We can leave now and go do something else. But I've been loving it. I love mapping it out and doing the whole thing.
I was talking about that with somebody else where it would depend on the character, because specifically this person made a really cool like drow paladin for Waterdeep Dragon Heist, but then when after that was over and they were like, well, now we're going to do Dungeon of the Mad Mage, he was like, I don't want to play this for that. Like, this is not the right character for that. And so it's like, I want to play, and it's like, I want to be a dwarf explorer that has this, and my whole point is finding things. And so then he made a character that he's like, I'll enjoy dungeon delving with this character. And so same thing with you. Like, I think about that, and I'm like, not every character I would have fun with that, but certain ones I would love it. Like, because you're just like, what's around the corner? I don't know. Like, I think that's fun. Yeah. So
I love mega dungeons. I think it's just because as a kid, that's what we played the most of, and that's what you got your graph paper out and tried to make all the time. They made no sense. My favorite adventure of all time, Temple of Elemental Evil.
Yeah, that's huge.
8-9 levels of just, why would this ever exist? Or how does this even work? Or how did it even get down there? Or how does it eat months from now? None of that matters. We're just down here doing these cool things, So I love a dungeon delve. I have made a couple of characters that were specific for it, but I tried to bring, the first character I was going to try to bring to this was a halfling cavalier who is going to ride a mastiff. And I was thinking, well, this is going to suck trying to deal with ladders or climbing, but there's not actually a lot of that in Dungeon of the Mad Mage so far. But in my mind, I was thinking, oh my God, we're going underground. How's this going to work? But I'm going to do it because I want to play this halfling cavalier, which I think would be super cool.
And then he died really fast. Is that it? I forget.
We moved on from the halfling cleric because, actually what it was, here's a funny thing. This was my party is a bunch of murder hobos, but I created the halfling cavalier to be a good guy, a true good guy. He did not fit in with the murder hobos. I couldn't in my head make it work that my halfling cavalier would stay with these people, because they constantly just murdered people left and right. Like, they're typical adventurers, right? And I'm like, I just need to make a character that has no conscience about this, because you guys just kill everything. And then we'll all have fun. And we have been having fun. Like, now I have, Khan, my arcane archer, is pretty morally gray, just like, is in the middle. It doesn't really matter. But I was trying to play a really pretty good character, and it wasn't matching with the way the thugs.
The party.
So it was pretty funny. So I had to get rid of it. I actually talked to the dungeon master about it, and we're like, I need to make a new character. I need to switch. So that's a tip for this weekend, If you're playing a character that you're not having fun with, just talk to your dungeon master and just say, I thought it was going to be fun. I thought it was going to work out. it's not fitting quite with what we're doing or how the party's working. So I think I'll play something else that just works with everybody, and I'll have fun, they'll have fun. Just like you're saying, like the guy saying, I don't think this character would be fun to play in that environment.
Yeah.
But this dwarf I make and does this, then I'll have fun, the party will have fun, the dungeon master will have fun. That's the point of the whole thing. So I love that. I don't want to go before I show off a little something.
That did come out.
It came in. So I have right behind me G.I. Joe. They have the Power Rangers. This is by Renegade Studios.
All using the same system, right?
All using the same system. And now I have the Transformers one. And I can't wait to go through it. The artwork is all of my boyhood dreams of all the Transformers I ever wanted. Wish I had. I only had handfuls of them. I never had them all, but I want them all. I want to make my own Transformer. I want to dive into this whole world. It's really cool. And I thought, I can't wait to play this. It is that system, just like the G.I. Joe one that has hundreds of G.I. Joes. Also, Renegade has the rights, so they can bring in hundreds and hundreds of different types of transformers. There's so many different Transformers from so many different shows and comic books and stuff that we all know the big probably 20 or 30 ish.
Yeah, but they have
There's
like the Beast Wars in there. I watched a review on it. It looks really good.
Beast Wars and everything, all the different versions.
What's the your siren? I was asking. I was wondering. It's the first of the month. What's this? Goblin Slayer?
Goblin Slayer, the TTRPG. Look how thick this book is.
Huge. I thought that was a manga.
Yeah. Have you ever seen this? Like the franchise? I didn't even know what it was. It's a anime. Hey, the guy who's doing the siren just turned it off nice and slow. Super thick. I don't even know what the system is. It was sitting in the game book store. I'd never heard of it. It's all looks like all Japanese writers, designers and stuff are all on the thing here. So I am super shocked that my game store even put it on the thing, because it wasn't something that I even popped up, and I'm like, this seems kind of cool. And the size of it, it's a nice kind of reference book too. It's like that perfect material for flipping back and forth a lot. No clue what the dice system is yet. Maybe I'll talk about it a little bit next week after I get to read it a tiny bit, but it looks kind of cool. So Goblin Slayer, the TTRPG, Transformers, the TTRPG, G.I. Joe, the TTPRG.
I wonder if those Power Rangers, Transformers, G.I. Joe, you could mix them together.
Absolutely. If the way I'm looking at how the character classes are and the stuff, it looks.
And granted, like a giant truck that transforms into a robot is probably more powerful than your whatever. But the idea that my Power Ranger
than a G.I.
Joe?
Yeah,
than a G.I. I don't know.
Come on, hold on.
For those of you asking, I don't know the system completely, but I know it's a D&D-esque system. It's like a 2D20 system, but you have like D6s and D8s and stuff. But
we talked about it in a previous show.
It's made to be simpler than Dungeons and Dragons, specifically because you're just supposed to kind of jump in and start playing. But the art was really good. That's what really captured me with it.
Exactly.
And this is licensed by Hasbro. It's kind of funny that Hasbro licensed their Transformers RPG to a different company, but I don't know. And same with G.I. Joe and Power Rangers. So I know that Ted is a big Power Rangers fan, and he's been talking to a couple of people to the Essence 20 system. Yeah, that's what they call it. He's been talking to a couple people about getting a Power Rangers game going. So I'm not included on that because I'm too busy. And I'm not a big Power Rangers fan, but if we were to play Transformers, I would be all over it. So
yeah, I'm just looking at some of the artwork and I mean, it's so good. It's all really good. Bumblebee's in there. You gotta have Bumblebee. Sideswipe, Megatron, Starscream.
Well, that's our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the donations and the members. Super appreciate that, Steve and BK Dan. We will be back next week with another episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. Until then, take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.